Have you ever stopped to think about the single most important engine on our planet? It's silent, it's everywhere, and it's working right now in every single green leaf, billions of times a second. Seriously, without this process, life as we know it would just stop. Today, we're diving deep into that engine, photosynthesis.
So, just how important are we talking? Well, take a look at this. It all starts with the sun, right? That's our planet's ultimate battery pack. Plants are the crucial first step. They're the only ones who can directly plug into that battery. From there, it's like a domino effect. A rabbit eats a plant, a fox eats the rabbit. All that's happening is that solar energy is getting passed along. So when you really think about it, from the burger on your plate to the very air in your lungs, we are all basically solar powered.
And that brings us to the central mystery we're going to tackle today. How on earth do plants pull off this incredible magic trick? How do they take three incredibly simple things, sunlight, air, and water, and turn them into the fuel for an entire planet? That's the secret code we're here to crack.
And here it is. This is the secret code. Now, don't let the chemistry here freak you out. I want you to think of this less like a boring equation from a textbook and more like a coded message. You know, it took scientists centuries of detective work to figure this out. Every single symbol in there represents a massive breakthrough, a real aha moment. And today, we're going to follow their trail of clues to break this code wide open.
So, how did we even begin to piece this incredible puzzle together? Well, we're going to retrace the steps of the investigation, looking at 4 huge clues that were uncovered by scientists who were just obsessed with understanding this fundamental process of life. All right, our first clue takes us all the way back to the 1770s, and it has everything to do with the very air that we breathe. A scientist by the name of Joseph Priestley started noticing something really weird happening inside sealed glass jars. Priestley's experiments were, just brilliant in their simplicity. He noticed that if he lit a candle in a sealed jar, the flame would go out pretty fast. A mouse in that same jar, well, it wouldn't survive. He figured the air was being, in his words, damaged. But then, and this is the breakthrough, he put a mint plant in the jar with the candle. And what happened? The candle stayed lit, the mouse could breathe. His amazing conclusion was that plants somehow restore the air. They were releasing a gas he'd just discovered, oxygen. The first piece of our puzzle. Okay, so plants make oxygen, got it. But what's powering this whole process? Is it just happening 24/7? That question leads us straight to our second clue, which, well, it shed a little light on the situation, literally. This next experiment is it's beautifully simple. Someone took a leaf and covered just a small part of it with something opaque, blocking it from the sun, while the rest was left out in the light. Later, when they tested the whole leaf for starch, which is basically the plant's stored food, guess what? Only the parts that had been in the sunlight tested positive. The takeaway was crystal clear. No light, no food. Light wasn't just helpful, it was an absolutely essential ingredient. So let's take stock. We have a product, oxygen. We have an energy source, light. But the plant has to be getting its building blocks from somewhere, right? It's taking in water, sure. But there was still a key ingredient missing from the air itself, something invisible. This is where Moll's half-leaf experiment comes in. It's so clever. Scientists set up a leaf so that one half of it was inside a bottle that soaked up all of the carbon dioxide, while the other half was just hanging out in the normal air. The result was stark. The half of the leaf inside the bottle, totally starved of CO2, couldn't make any food at all. The other half, it was thriving. The conclusion was undeniable. Plants are actively pulling this invisible ingredient, carbon dioxide, right out of thin air. Okay, the plot is thickening. We have our ingredients, water from the soil, carbon dioxide from the air, and energy from sunlight. But where inside the plant is the kitchen, right? Where does this incredible chemical transformation actually go down? Finally, in 1854, a scientist named Julius von Sachs basically found the kitchen. He showed that this entire process happens within the green parts of the plant, inside these teeny tiny structures we now call chloroplasts. And he was the one who identified the actual product being made, glucose, a simple sugar that the plant then stores as starch. So these tiny green chloroplasts, they were the factories where all the magic was happening. So there we have it. We followed the clues. We found the inputs, the water, the CO2. We found the outputs, the oxygen, the glucose. We found the energy source, sunlight. And we found the factory, the chloroplasts. Now finally, we have everything we need to go back and decipher that secret code. And look at how it all just clicks into place.
It's beautiful. We've got carbon dioxide. That's Small's invisible ingredient. We've got water, which the plant is pulling up from its roots. Those two things are combined using energy from sunlight, which we know is essential. And it all happens inside the chlorophyll of those chloroplasts. And what comes out the other side? We get glucose, the sugary food that von Sachs identified, and we get oxygen, the very same gas that Priestley discovered was restoring the air. The code is cracked. So what's really going on at the microscopic chemical level? Well, it's this incredibly elegant exchange called a redox reaction. You can think of it like a tiny relay race with electrons. Water gets oxidized. It basically hands off its electrons and becomes oxygen. At the same time, carbon dioxide gets reduced. It accepts those electrons and uses their energy to build itself up into a glucose molecule. It's this perfect, tiny transfer of energy, turning pure sunlight into the chemical bonds that power almost all life on Earth. So, we've cracked the code. We've seen the chemistry. But let's zoom out for a second. Why does this one single microscopic process matter so much on a global scale? What's the big picture here?
When you do zoom out, the impact is just staggering. This one chemical reaction is responsible for two things that make your life, my life, all life possible. First, it is the absolute bedrock of almost every single food chain on the planet. The energy in the food you ate for lunch, it started as sunlight. And second, it's the source of pretty much all the oxygen in our atmosphere. The very next breath you take is a direct gift from photosynthesis. Food and air, it all comes back to this one elegant process.
So let's just do a quick recap of the whole shebang. Plants are basically solar-powered chemists, using sunlight to turn water and CO2 into fuel. It's a process that took us centuries of brilliant detective work to figure out. And what are the results? The sugar that powers life and the oxygen that we all need to breathe. It's as simple and as profound as that.
So the next time you see a forest or a park or even just a little weed growing through a crack in the sidewalk, take a second to remember what's really happening inside. That quiet, simple act of a leaf turning itself towards the sun, that is the silent, powerful green engine that truly drives our entire world.